I'm Matthew Massucci, born and raised in New York, and I moved to Prescott, Arizona when I was 19 years old. Came out here, and then within a short time, I started working for a good company, making good money. I had just recently flown a good friend of mine, who I refer to as my brother, out to live with me for a couple of weeks. He was gonna work for mine and my friend's company. He had only been out for about a week, and him and my girlfriend at the time wanted some snacks, so I decided to take her and my dog down to the gas station to get some candy bars. And I drove down, I parked my car, I went in, I had a normal conversation with the clerk who I see on a regular basis, 5 minutes away from my house. When I exited the store, a car that was parked directly in front of the doors, you were looking inside their vehicle. And my car was parked adjacent to that, maybe a space over. There was very clearly two guys looking at me, saying something, I wasn't sure what, they were in their vehicle. By the time I passed their vehicle to get to mine, two doors had opened and a guy that was much larger than me was screaming things and yelling at me and charging at me. He was very clearly heavily intoxicated. He was flaring his arms, he was moving like an intoxicated person would. And I was right next to my car. I'm not gonna fight a guy that's intoxicated for no reason. So I tried to get to my car and leave, and he wouldn't let me. He followed me to my vehicle and then opened my car door. It was, 10 seconds that I walked out of the store, and he was in my car. I retrieved my firearm, which I had holstered in the center console. I put up my left hand to try to prevent him from ripping me out of my car. I'm not a big guy, I'm a skinny guy, but he was bigger than me, much more larger than I was in size. So I don't know what this guy is capable of doing. So I had my firearm at, low ready position and established a safe distance to try to prevent him from entering my car further. Then he saw my firearm and he started yelling, "What are you gonna do, shoot me? I'm a chief of the fire police." Luckily, his wife was able to pull him away enough to where I was able to close my car door. And I closed my car door and I left. 5 days after that, I get pulled over on my way home from work. My brother was in the car with me, worked about a 10-hour day. On the way home, I get two cars behind me. I wasn't breaking any traffic laws, so I didn't quite know why I was being pulled over, but I pulled over immediately. Nobody approached my vehicle. Then I'm looking in the mirrors and they tell me, put your hands on the ceiling. So I put my hands on the ceiling. 2 cars turns to 4 cars, turns to 8 cars. I hear brakes squealing, they shut the road down, and I'm just being told to sit there with my hands on the ceiling. And I see they have large weapons pointed at me, Every one of them are armed. They exit my brother out of the vehicle from the passenger side. At one point, they had asked me to exit the vehicle, and I was seat buckled. So then I yelled back, I got my seatbelt on, and they couldn't hear me. So then when I reached to do it, they shouted, "Don't move." He said to lift my shirt. So I went to lift the bottom of my shirt, and he said, no, stop, from the neck. Multiple times during that, I could have been killed. They could have done so many different things, but they didn't do that. They proceeded with extreme prejudice because of this man's status in the small town that I was in. I was arrested for 4 felony charges, 2 counts of aggravated assault, 2 counts of committing a felony with a firearm. I went into an interrogation room. He had a file, and he said, "I'm gonna ask you some questions." I opted to plead the 5th, and when I did that, he said, "We got you on camera," and he closed the file. They said I pointed my firearm at a man's chest, and then I went up to their vehicle, for no apparent reason, became verbally aggressive.
And this was the contact with the wife, the other adult in the situation. She said while she was inside, a Hispanic male approached her vehicle and was staring at her daughter.
That Hispanic male is you, apparently.
Never knew.
The male mumbled something. Then her son looked at the male and said, "What?" And they asked, "Well, what did the male do after that?" She said, "He walked around her vehicle and said, quote, 'I'm going to kick a 15-year-old ass,' close quote." And we know for a fact, because we watch her on video, that she's in the store, not even looking at you. So in other words, the door's closed, you're outside, she's not even looking at you.
I had a witness in my vehicle. There was video cameras that could show that. None of that was taken into consideration. The only thing that was taken into consideration was this guy's status in the fire department. Within a week, we go to a court appearance. I don't even enter the courtroom. He goes in, he comes out within minutes, tells me that they refuse to press felony charges. That's the way he worded things. I asked my current counsel, am I, good to leave the state and go home to New York? Because I don't want to even be around here anymore. And he said, yeah, you're good. Go ahead. I'll let you know if anything happens. And then a year later, I'm hearing that the charges are still being active. I contacted my lawyer because I did want closure. I wanted to be able to tell my mother that she didn't have to worry about her son going to prison. And day after I contacted him, hey, can I move past this? Are things done? Will we get a letter of dismissal? He contacted me and said, they're picking up the charges. But now instead of 4 charges, it's only 3. 2 aggravated assaults with 1 disorderly, committing felony with a firearm, but all still very serious charges, and that I had another court appearance in a month.
These are mandatory prison under Arizona law, 5 to 15 years apiece.
So that's when I finally said, I gotta call somebody else. We did our due diligence. We found you guys, luckily.
Matthew, I remember the tone of that conversation at the beginning when we got on that call compared to the tone at the end of that conversation. The tone at the beginning, I felt like I was looking at a family that was just beaten down at their wits' end, clearly depressed and sad and fatalistic. I remember your mom saying something like, look, we know that he's got to do some time. We know he's probably going to end up with a felony. We're just getting a second opinion. We hired a guy who's local and we think he knows what he's doing. We understand our son may have to take a felony. And I remember the tone of the conversation changed pretty abruptly when I explained to your family, if the evidence corroborates what you're telling me right now, not only should your son not be going to prison, this case needs to be dismissed immediately.
My lawyer actively told me that this guy's status was affecting the case. He told me that I may be looking at some jail time because they may want to, something this serious is maybe mandated. And they may not want to just completely go for a dismissal because then, and he even said this, they don't want to dismiss it because it shows that they were wrong. It's not about what looks good for them. It's my life, and I was severely impacted by this. And that's why I'm glad I got you guys. And within, I think it was 2 months or 3 months, not even, you guys had the external video footage. That external video is what proved that these people were lying.
We presented actually 2 very specific and highly detailed letters to the prosecutor saying, when you go to the grand jury, first of all, Matthew denies that he did any of this. Secondly, Matthew wishes to be there to testify to the grand jury because, at least in Arizona, if you notify the prosecutor of that, they have to let the grand jury know that you're willing to show up and testify. And they can invite you to come in and testify under oath. And then 3, we provided very specific factual statements to say, here's what happened and here's what you have to present to the grand jury. And if you fail to do that, we're going to ask to have the indictment thrown out. That's where the wheels came off of the track for this case, because the prosecutor got those letters and then started going back and looking at the evidence and specifically looked at the video. And then he called Andy and I and he said, guys, I don't see what you're looking at in the videos. I think you're wrong.
So that's when Dr. Black enters the story, and he's an expert that we use to do forensic analysis on videos. We've worked with him in the past, and he was like, hey, let me help you out with that video enhancement, because he knew about the case. And he hopped on and he did his thing, and he was able to zoom in and enhance and change saturation and everything like that, such that it made it much more clear. We called up the prosecutor again to have him actually come into the office and sit down with us in our conference room and blow it up on the big screen. And to his credit, it's a little unorthodox. The prosecutor was willing to do that, come in and actually sit down with us. He came in with an open mind, I think, to that meeting.
He's telling us, look, Andy, look, Joey, your guy is saying that Mr. Parra is inside his door. So then I don't see that. The prosecutor knows that if this guy is inside your door, preventing you from closing the door and threatening you, that would show that Mr. Parra is the one that's actually committing a crime against you. He came to our office. As Andy was saying, we had this enhanced video. We put it up on our very large screen. We all stood there right in front of it, and we walked through it frame by frame.
It shows you buy something at the convenience store, walk out, not walk around their car, simply walk over to your vehicle, get confronted by this man and pursued back to your vehicle. It shows you enter your vehicle, sit in it, and then you go to close your door and he positions himself in your doorway so that you cannot close it. It's even actually worse than that. You can see his arm pushed the vehicle open all the way. The vehicle's open maybe at about a 45-degree angle when he puts himself in there. To put that in legal terms that are relevant here, he's demonstrating to you that he's ready to make an unlawful entry to harm you in your vehicle.
You can see Mr. Parra's legs through your open door. We're looking down through your windshield and you see him standing there and he's like, oh, wow. And then the real conclusion to this is you can see your arm reach out and pull the door shut. Should have seen his face when that happened. There's no question whatsoever that the things that you were saying were 100% right, that this guy was being untruthful.
He now conceded that there's major problems in the state's case and that he did not believe that the charges should go forward.
Well, I was really impressed by what he said in court.
On Thursday of last week, I went over personally to their office in Chandler to sit down and go through the original video plus their enhanced video. And what I saw with their assistance, Your Honor, was information that has caused me to become of the opinion that this case cannot and should not proceed.
That the state finally did the right thing after we had to beat them over the head with it over the course of several months doesn't make you whole. We tell people this all the time. Even if you are ultimately acquitted, even if you eventually get a good defense and the charges are dismissed, you're not going to feel like a winner at the end, you know? And so you've been wronged, no doubt about that.
When I first moved back to New York, I tried to start getting jobs. Now I need to find a new job. So I went back and I started, going to interviews. Some of these interviews would go great. They'd like me. They liked my experience, liked my references. But then I'd leave. They'd Google my name. They'd see that I was accused of threatening a family with a firearm. Who wants a guy like that working for them? Mm-hmm. I don't blame them, but that's not who I am.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today to hear Matthew's story. If you want to learn more about our program, go and check out attorneysonretainer.us. Learn all about our self-defense program and what it can do for you. Also, check out attorneysforfreedom.com. Learn all about our law firm and how we defend people in the criminal justice system. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share it with a friend.